What's up, guys? ICEMAN here. Welcome to Meditations. Appreciate you guys for liking this video, subscribe to the page, and swat that bell so you're notified next time I post a video. And blessings to my patrons for supporting the meditations. Links in the description below. May your contributions be brought back to you sevenfold. So why'd she leave you? Yeah. The question, I think, a lot of us, or most of us for that matter, almost all of us, could ask ourselves at one point in our lives. I know I asked that question a couple times in my late teens, early 20s. But then I started to come up with answers, and not just answers, but an innate revelation of truth as to why that bitch left me, or whatever, however you want to say it. Yeah. Almost don't know where to begin with this one. But I'll make it quick. So I remember when I was a little duck-billed platypus. A lot of us can probably relate to this. My mother would tell me, yeah, Ice Boy, you need to be nice to girls. You need to bring them flowers. Tell them they're pretty. This and that. Open the doors for them, right? Like, I think a lot of our mothers kind of told us that when we were young. They kind of ingrained that into our psyche or something. And we all believed it. Because it's your mom, you know? Why would she lie to you? The problem is she wasn't technically lying, because she believed that to be true, but it wasn't. You know, in her mind, that is the sort of guy that she thought she'd want. But of course, what we would observe is that's not the guy that she picked. I mean, my father was a good man. And in fact, I'll get to that later, perhaps, as to why she picked him. And not the pushover guy that she told us, you know, that we should be in order to get women. And a lot of that has to do with how bunnies, they don't tell the wolves how to catch them. You know what I mean? Like, the bunny will try to get away, and the wolf has to figure out how to catch the bunny. You know, the bunny doesn't want to be caught. Now, it's not a perfect analogy, because again, in the woman's mind and in our mother's minds, they sort of believed that to be true. It's sort of a parallel with the wolf and the bunny. Only the bunny doesn't want to get caught by the wolf. And the woman just has a different idea, maybe, of what the wolf is. I don't know. There's some sort of connection there. But the bunny's not going to tell you how to catch the wolf, whether or not it's doing it consciously or subconsciously. And when it comes to women or our mothers, they were doing it subconsciously. Pretty much filtering out the ones that they wouldn't want is basically, I think, what's going on there. It's sort of like a shit test. And deep in their psyche, they know, well, if he follows this advice, he's never going to get any. But nonetheless, to an extent, I followed that advice, like my first girlfriend. And I was kind of late in the game. I was 16 years of age. Now, when I was 14, 15, I hung out with a few girls, but, you know, I never really dared pursue them much. I was a bit shy. a bit uninitiated, obviously. I was fucking young, what do you expect? But beyond that, the first real female that I pursued, I was 16 years of age. And I did try the nice guy approach, right? Oh, you're beautiful. Oh, I love you. Probably the biggest fucking mistake I made. Wow. It's embarrassing. I love you. Yeah. And whatever else comes with that. I'm sure I got her like Valentine's Day gifts and shit. Took her out to dinner and stuff and held her hand, got the door for her, all that shit that women nowadays are told they don't need, or a man shouldn't do that or whatever. But nonetheless, that's sort of the embodiment of what I was. And of course, expectedly, the relationship lasted like 6 months. And the bitch left me, right? And of course, I was like, oh my God, I'm heartbroken. It was like the worst feeling ever. I thought she was the only chick for me. I thought there was no other women in the world. I thought she was the most beautiful thing that the eye could possess. Just everything about her. I mean, it was infatuation, I'm sure. She was the first broad I ever touched. So it's like a freaking baby bird connecting with its mother or whatever. But of course, it was misguided. I mean, this is some chick that's looking for an alpha. She ain't looking for some pussy ass. She ain't looking for a child. And in a sidewinderish sort of way, that's kind of what I was conveying to her. So she left, and I started looking it up. I was like, okay, what the fuck happened? I was like, huh. So I was a good guy. I was nice. I was trying to be funny, trying to be confident, but I would tell her all sorts of uplifting things, That was just all that. I was like, huh, I wonder what happened. And this was in the days when the internet started to become more abundant. So I started looking it up. I can't remember if it was on Google. It was probably Google. I said, how to get women or whatever, or what do women really want? And I started delving into the game. All right. This guy by the name of David D'Angelo. I mean, I don't know what the hell he's doing nowadays. I feel like I saw him on some public address conference of some sort, some like dude meetup or something like 10 years ago on the internet, on YouTube or something. But I mean, I don't know. But this guy, he was kind of from what I gathered, he was sort of a pioneer on the internet when it came to getting the venom. Like, I don't really want to say the term, but there's that term where you're a guy and you just go out in public and you ask for chicks' numbers and all that. You know what I mean? He was kind of the guy that would articulate that whole thing. And I was captivated. He had this like subscription you could pay for. I didn't pay for it, but he would give you snippets of what he teaches in these emails. So I would get all these emails. Like it was the first like real spam emails I would get, but they were actually good ones. Because he'd give me these emails, all these scenarios of all these guys who tried his game, who subscribed to his channel or his website or whatever. We paid the monthly thing, and they had all this success, right? So I would read all these stories, and I just started processing and visualizing what this actually looks like, and it started making sense. These guys would tell stories like, yeah, I would tease her about this and that. I would act overly confident, cocky, funny, were like the really big terms. Cocky, funny, confident, teasing her. You know what I mean? Because when you tease her, like I think a lot of guys, one of the biggest mistakes they make with women is they're sitting across from the table, right? They go out for coffee or tea or dinner, and the guy is inclined to just constantly be agreeable with her. She's like, oh yeah, oh, what do you like? Oh, yeah, me too, me too, me too. Oh, you do? Oh, me too. Yeah, I love that. And now it's a bit more, there's some interesting dynamics added to the whole thing now with political shit, like, you know, how polarizing it is. And so that's something that you kind of have to navigate, I would suspect, as a man. You got to figure out how to work with all that in conversation. But in the early days, it wasn't as polarizing and it wasn't at the forefront of all the conversations. So in the early days, it was a little easier to navigate, I think, the conversations with the women across the table. But I think that's a mistake that a lot of guys make, is they're just constantly agreeable. And the problem is the women, they know this subconsciously. They know it. And they're off put by it big time. You know, if you're sitting there agreeing with her and everything, she starts to know, oh, this guy's a real pussy. She's like, wow. I mean, I know he doesn't agree with me on everything. How is that even possible? And he's not even testing anything that I say. You know, he's not even responding with like a question. He's so scared, you know? So she's like, so I don't want that in my life. I want somebody who's strong. You know, I want somebody who's capable, who can break through. I want somebody who can protect and provide and chase off the wolves and kill them. You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't want some pussy. And that's deep within their nature. So a guy who's sitting there, oh, really? Oh, me too. Oh, that's so good. Oh, I love your shirt. Oh, I mean, you start to sound like you're a switch hitter. You know what I mean? You're starting to sound like you hit on the other side of the fucking plate. Oh, look at those shoes. Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, wow. And another thing is the tattoos. I mean, I'm disgusted by women with tattoos. I would not go on a date with one. But nonetheless, I think that the ones who get the tattoos, what they do is they attract a lot of mid-men, because the mid-men, they'll see the tattoos as a conversation starter, and they need a conversation starter because they're wimps. They're pussies. So the tattoos on women, I think in their subconscious, they know that those attract a bunch of mid-men. Now, the top tier men, and as far as I see it, that's going to be a big repelling. You know, they're not going to get the top tier guys. I mean, there's not many of them, but they're not going to get them. Because I don't think it's in our nature to like those things. You know, and guys trick themselves and brainwash themselves into thinking that they do like tattoos because they know what it does. It creates an opening for them to have a conversation with a woman, and it gives them one more thing to flatter the woman over. Oh, nice tattoos. Wow, you look, yeah, good choice to draw all over your fucking body and it never comes off and it looks like shit when it's on you. And as you get older, it wrinkles up and you can't even tell what the fuck it is. You know what I mean? And there's all those toxins constantly going into your body, like forever until you die from the ink. But I mean, like, that's what it does. And I think the women, they know that subconsciously, that it attracts all the mids, but the highs, they stay away from her. And they want the highs, of course, but I mean, it's kind of an easy sell because they, you know, at least they're going to get a bunch of mids who are just going to keep emboldening them with compliments and just fanning them with, it's like a consuming fire. It's like there's all these guys, oh my God, I love the tattoos. Wow, do you have another? Wow. And then they can ask, oh, do you have any other? Oh, where are those at? You know, like to almost sort of segue the conversation into something a bit more intimate. And if she's like a hoe, she'll be like, oh yeah, look, I have one right here. I have one right here. I have one on my belly. You know what I mean? So it opens all that up. Of course, this video isn't about tattoos and why they're detestable on females. But it's just one example of the overall picture here. And yeah, that's a good thing to stay away from, but whatever. Don't need to go there in this video. So I would see all these emails from this guy, all his clients, and I'd start formulating a sort of survey or something, as you call it. I don't know. An opinion, a reality from all this research. And then be like, oh yeah, I teased her on the date. I made fun of her shoes. I said they look like clown shoes. and she turned red and she laughed and she smiled and then she played with her hair. Because the thing is, beautiful women, the ones that we all want, right? They're not used to guys questioning them. They're not used to guys being like, oh, where'd you get that shirt? She'd be like, oh, I got it at Anthropology. And you'd be like, oh, it looks like something my grandma would wear. She'd be like, oh, what the fuck? And she'd be like, oh, you know, like, why is this guy willing to do that? Because what that showcases to them is that you're not afraid of losing her. And what that does in her mind is it gives you perceived value. Because to an extent, she knows that she's beautiful. If she's like a top tier woman, you know, doesn't think she's the most beautiful thing, they'll have confidence issues like everybody else. Guys too, obviously, which is the point of what this video is, because they have a ton of fucking confidence issues. That's why they kiss the ass and can't get the girl. But what that does is when you say something like that to her, it comes out of left field, right? Is that the saying? And it's like a shocker. Subconsciously, it showcases potentially that you're good with women. Because if you weren't, why would you be willing to risk it with her? That must mean that you have options all over the fucking place, which makes you more desirable. You know, it's just how the mating game works. And why the female is the limiting factor in human reproduction. So the guys are just always trying to get in, and the women are always trying to filter. You know what I mean? It's by nature they're doing this. They're trying to filter the guys because it's a risk. You know, getting pregnant and all the hormonal shit, and the fact that biologically there's a lot more risk with women hanging out with guys. You know what I mean? As much as the woke fucking bullshit and celebrities and academia wants to tell you, they are on average weaker physically. You know what I mean? Like, they're more at risk around guys. I mean, we observe this fucking world. We've been observing this since the beginning of fucking time. You know, just on average, they're quite a bit weaker than men, physically speaking. So it's a risk. You know what I mean? So they have to do that. And men, they don't care about spreading their seed. They do it every day anyway. You know, they just whack off and do it every day anyway. So it's in their nature just to spread it to anybody. You know, anybody that they can. And the women are like this, like, no. They're like, okay, maybe I'll take you in. You know, and the one that she wants to take in is the one that's set apart. You know, the one who has options, because that shows that he's desirable. Like, you know, the thing where married men are more likely to get hit on by women. Men who have a ring on the finger. Because that's an indicator. They see that and they're like, is it just anything to start filtering them out from all the guys who can't get women is what they're looking for. So you got a ring on your finger, and they'll be more likely to initiate conversation with you, or to continue conversation with you, or to get to know you, because they see that and they're like, wow, at least one woman accepted him, and to the point where she married him. You know what I mean? So it's an indicator. So it all comes together. So when you say shit like that, when you're willing to come at this at a different angle, it changes everything. You know, she's like, why the hell would he make fun of my shoes? None of the other guys did that. They all just complimented every single thing about me, and they were extremely boring, and they had no substance to them. Which is why I'm dating, which is why I'm trying to meet somebody else still. Because everybody just kissed my ass and act like the ground I walked on turned to gold. But why is this guy making fun of my shoes? You know what I mean? It's like he must have options. He must have confidence. He must not be afraid of me rejecting him. Which transitions into he must be good with women. You know what I mean? He must be strong, bold, socially capable, and socially great. Just all those things. But this video is not necessarily about the game. What's this video about again? No, I'm just kidding. I know what the video is about. Why she left you. So I started looking into that stuff, and I kind of halfway made it where I faked confidence I faked the alpha shit. I teased and this and that, and it worked. You know, it was like all of a sudden I was getting dates. I was seeing women, and I got what I wanted. You know what I mean? With like various chicks who were good looking, who were top tier as far as I see it. But I was kind of faking that, in that the problem is women, they really do want somebody who can provide, protect, sustain. They want an alpha guy, you know, they want an alpha guy. But there's a lot of fake alpha guys. And that's kind of what I was. And there's a lot of fake alpha guys on YouTube who talk about all the fake alpha male advice, all this shit. But women, I think, can see through that to an extent. You know, they know when a guy's like, oh yeah, I'm very confident. Oh yeah, I believe in myself. Oh yeah, haha, dumb shoes. Haha. You know, like they can kind of. It's becoming so abundant now with the fake alpha stuff. I think that's a new level that they have to sift through now. Because I remember then in my early 20s, or when I was 19 years old, let's say, I was about 19 years old, I was still living with my parents. And I moved out, I think at late 19 or 20 is when I moved out and never returned. But I skipped college for a short while. Should have skipped it for longer. It was a waste of fucking money. But so I would try to balance a woman without really having a path in life, which was a big deal because they can see that. So the game, you know, the teasing, the confidence, the alpha shit or whatever, it worked. But after, you know, I tried to sustain like a relationship with it, which was like an inconsistent realm, you know, because she was like, okay, well, he seems confident and cocky and teasing and has those alpha traits or whatever, but why the fuck is he still living with his parents? And I can tell he's like sweating because he knows he's not really, he knows it's unsustainable. Yeah. So that went on for a little while, and I tried to sustain relationships without having a path in life, which is a big thing. You know, it's really important to first have your path laid out for you the best you can before trying to hook up with a woman. Because before that, it just gets, there's a lot of fakery. It's a lot of fake confidence. They're like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this someday. Yeah, but right now I'm just busted my ass at Burger King or something. That works to an extent. You know, a lot of chicks like the bad boys, especially if you have a tether on your ankle and you've, you know, you're like doing community service for it, or you've been in jail or whatever. You know, they tend to like that shit because it festers up the whole bad boy alpha persona in a sort of misconstrued way that has to do with social safety nets that allow those sort of guys to thrive. You know, in a more naturalistic, primal environment, those guys wouldn't be thriving. So the women, what they do is they confuse the confidence with competence. You know, these guys are not actually competent. You know, just they're working at Burger King, got a fucking tether on their leg, but they're confident still. And that's the trickery. You know, they see them as confident and sort of alpha-esque in a way. But like I said, naturalistically, these guys wouldn't be thriving with women. It's because of all the social safety nets that they can't. You know, nice, sustainable civilization that was made on a system of honor, integrity, the attributes that should be the ones that attract women. But it's been confused and diluted because of this strange fake world that we currently live in. That has a lot to do with how, you know, the money's fake. The money's been debased. The Federal Reserve is $35 trillion in debt. They got fake money left, right, and center, coming in, coming out, subsidizing bullshit that nobody wants. They gave us a fake world. You know what I mean? So that sort of allowed for this instability that we see going on here. That also comes with female and their selection with men. But so a really, really important thing is to have your path laid out for you to an extent, because until my mid-20s, I really didn't know what the fuck I wanted to do. I was like, oh, I gotta go to college, get some degree, and I went to college. I went to several of them. I blew a lot of money. I probably shouldn't have. But fortunately, the debt is paid off now, and it took a while. I did a lot of it myself, and my parents were generous enough to help me with some of it as well in those years, in my early 20s and all that, mid 20s. So together we paid that fucking bullshit off. But then I started to sit back and I was like, so let me get this straight. I don't want to work 40 hours a week. I accept that. I don't want to go work for some other man. I accept that. I'm going to have to start figuring shit out. And in those days, like I said, about 24, 25, I started being a hustler. And I started to realize I could do it. And I've been doing it for 13 years now. And I hope to the Creator that it continues going in this way, because things have been good. But I had a pretty good setup. I made some mistakes. Like I said, I was in debt, but I did a couple of things right. I didn't have kids early on with somebody I shouldn't. I didn't get in more debt with credit cards and shit. I didn't get like a new car or anything dumb like that. My cars were like a couple $1,000, and they still are. You just got to buy and shop right, buy Toyota. And check that frame for rust before you do. But you see what I'm saying? Once you can do that, and I appreciate, the guys who do have it in them to go out and be an engineer, be a doctor, be a lawyer or some shit. We need all that stuff. I didn't really want to do it. That sounded like too much work. I was like, I got to go bust my ass for 40, 50 hours a week? Like until I'm like 65 or some shit? I'm glad that there's a lot of guys who do that, because we need them to make for a sustainable civilization. But I wanted to be one of the guys who wiggle through the cracks, and who can thrive in a civilization like that. By being a hustler, by being something on the side or whatever, being something that offers more freedom, So that's the route that I took. And once I started to be like, this is where it's at for me. I actually love what I'm doing. I have freedom. I just started doing what I wanted to do. I was careful with my spending. I was cheap as a freaking toad. And some of the women saw that, so I no longer necessarily had to fake that stuff. They actually could see it. That I was like, this guy's genuinely like a freaking pirate or some shit. Women like pirates. They, isn't that one of the 5 things in psychology? They like surgeons, they like vampires, like their fantasy man. They like top executives or something. And pirates is one of them. Like pirates. They see the pirate as a guy who does what he wants, who breaks on through, who's not trying to wedge into the social norms. Who just enjoys his life and doesn't go kiss somebody else's ass. You know what I mean? So they like the pirates too. Shit, maybe that's what you got to do, is you got to pick your profession. You want to be a surgeon. Do you want to be a werewolf? Do you want to be a pirate? I'm somewhere between the wolf and the pirate, or a vampire and a pirate, perhaps. I don't really know what you got to do career-wise to be a vampire. Those like the drug dealers or some shit? I don't really know, because obviously they like those. They like the bad boys, but I don't do the illegal shit. I always made executive decisions throughout my time, knowing, like, okay, what's the risk and what's the reward? Like, oh, Ice Boy, look at the show Breaking Bad. Look at this guy. I was like, you go to jail for the rest of your fucking life? Are you fucking kidding me? I'll do something legal. You know what I mean? So you got to evaluate the risk and the reward. Do you want to get fucked in your ass in prison for the rest of your fucking life? Because it's just short-sighted if you think you can just get away with shit forever. But I mean, yeah, that's how it is. But I think that's kind of how it worked out the way that it did, where then I attained my first wife, who I'm still with and who is my favorite wife. In those early days, I mean, hell, I met her when I was 26, so like a year or two into this whole, I'm doing what I want. And at that point, I had an apartment, and that's what I wanted, and she could probably see that. If I had an apartment, but I wanted a house, that would probably make me look bad. But I think she could see that I genuinely loved my life and my setup. And fortunately, she was willing to move, to pursue with me, to pursue going forward with me. That's probably a lot of it. She's like, oh, this guy, he's doing what he wants to do. He's found his path. It's not always the most preferable, but he's not like just busting his ass for somebody else, hating his job and wishing he was somewhere else doing something else. You know what I mean? So it's like the embodiment of that, the embodiment of my goals, which weren't very high, but they were high enough for me. I just wanted a couple things. I wanted freedom and I wanted my own place. And I wanted enough money to do well and sustain at the least. You know what I mean? I've moved up a notch or two. I have a house now. I got a great deal on it. I could pay it off, but I don't think I really want to, because the more assets on paper you have, the more susceptible you are to all sorts of shit. Taking it back, losing the asset, you no longer have it as write-offs. There's all sorts of things. I don't know. It's probably a good thing in some circumstances to. I mean, a lot of the really rich guys, they don't like to pay off their homes. They accumulate everything with low interest debt or something. I don't want to do that. The only debt that I want is the house, which is the only debt that I have. But yeah, I might keep it as it is for a while. I figured it was going to be the only debt I was going to have ever would be the frickin' house. That was my goal, and that's where I'm at right now. I would like to pay off the house, probably, but right now it's like the payment's really low. It's low interest. I'm locked into that. They're inflating the hell out of currency. That money might go better somewhere else. Instead of just paying off this like 2% interest loan, I could probably put it in S&P 500 or even buy gold and silver or some shit and do better. I'm not entirely sure, but it's all possible. It's all things to look into. But you guys see what I'm saying? Does that help at all? I mean, basically, the women, they want the alpha guy. If you're not the alpha guy, they're going to go with the alpha guy. So they're going to leave you for him. Now, what does the alpha guy mean exactly? Well, not always what it seems. There's a lot of fake ones on YouTube, a lot of those gurus and shit who want the Lambo or something and a nice fancy watch or something. They're kind of acting like birds, where they're trying to puff up and be really colorful to attract the women. But outwardly, I think ultimately that doesn't attract the good kind of women. The good kind of women they're more authentic, they're less superficial, and they're better at perceiving a good man or whatever. Where a lot of the fake alphas, they kind of fall short of that. A guy who maybe that is insecurity or confidence issues when you have to have like a nice ass shiny car and a watch and a nice suit on and be perfectly shaved. It almost starts turning into feminine qualities when you want to have outwardly all that stuff. That's what women do. They want to look good outwardly. That's in nature what they're inclined to do for good reason, because men are visual. But you see what I'm saying? The video's kind of been long enough, so I'm going to end this, but let me know what your thoughts are on these matters in the comments below. and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Peace be with you.